The United States maritime defense strategy during the late Cold War heavily relied on the Grumman F-14 Tomcat in its primary weapon, the AIM-54 Phoenix. This massive missile was specifically designed as a long-range, fleet defense saturation weapon to intercept Soviet bomber streams before they could launch anti-ship missiles. Operating with terminal active radar homing, it achieved a peak speed of Mach 5 and an operational range of approximately 100 miles or 160 kilometers under optimal high-altitude conditions. By the mid-1980s, however, defense planners increasingly concluded that the Phoenix architecture offered limited growth potential and would eventually require a clean-sheet successor to maintain a flexible kinetic reach across a broader, more agile tactical fighter fleet. To address the physical constraints and electronic vulnerabilities of the Phoenix, the U.S. Navy initiated the Advanced Air-to-Air Missile, or AAAM program. This initiative, designated as the AIM-152, aimed to build a lighter, highly compact weapon capable of tracking targets at speeds exceeding Mach 3 over a range greater than 185 kilometers. Two competing industrial consortiums developed distinct technological designs to fulfill this strict footprint requirement. According to open-source assessments, the Hughes-Raytheon proposal likely explored an integral rocket ramjet, or IRR concept, to secure constant thrust and continuous atmospheric oxygen intake. Meanwhile, the competing General Dynamics Westinghouse design emphasized advanced multipole solid propulsion for dynamic mid-course energy management. Despite the conceptual promise of the competing designs, geopolitical shifts abruptly altered American defense procurement calculations. The dissolution of the Soviet Union in late 1991 removed the primary peer threat that justified the expensive outer air battle concept. Citing a diminished threat environment and tightening fiscal mandates, congressional committees completely terminated the AIM-152 program in 1992, just as the designs reached ground demonstration phases and before full-scale flight evaluation could begin. This pivotal decision left the United States military without a designated long-range successor, forcing a multi-decade reliance on incremental upgrades of a medium-range airframe. Following the retirement of the Phoenix missile system in 2004, the AIM-120 AMRAAM became the sole beyond visual range weapon for U.S. fighter fleets. Defense planners executed a series of successive block updates to stretch the capabilities of this medium-range design. The AIM-120C variants introduced clipped wings for internal carriage within stealth bays. The peak of this mechanical evolution emerged with the AIM-120D, which extended the effective engagement envelope to an estimated 130 to 160 kilometers. Crucially, this added reach did not stem from physically expanded propellant sections. Rather, it was achieved through optimized internal packaging, aerodynamic refinements, advanced flight profile software, and two-way digital data links. The prolonged reliance on incremental AMRAAM updates had profound structural impacts on the domestic defense industrial base. As production lines shifted toward optimization for cost efficiency and electronics integration, the development of cutting-edge solid rocket motor configurations slowed down. Moving toward booster-only designs and later AMRAAM variants meant that critical institutional expertise regarding complex multipole solid propellant casting gradually atrophied. This stagnation was further compounded by a broader doctrinal shift. Many Western planners assumed that low observable aircraft and superior sensor fusion would reduce the operational necessity for extremely long-range, clean-sheet intercept weapons. The fundamental physics of missile design dictate that total kinetic endurance is strictly bounded by available propellant mass fraction. Because single-pulse rocket configurations burn through their entire propellant supply within the first few seconds of flight, the missile must coast ballistically across its mid-course path. Atmospheric drag forces act continuously against the airframe, causing a continuous reduction in velocity and maneuvering energy over extended distances. When engaging a target at its outer range boundaries, the AMRAAM arrives with rapidly depleting energy reserves. If an adversary executes high-G defensive maneuvers at these distances, the energy-depleted weapon lacks the necessary terminal thrust to adjust its trajectory and maintain lethality. While Western development paths remained locked into incremental upgrades, the People's Liberation Army Air Force pursued dedicated long-range lethality. Developed by the China Airborne Missile Academy, or CAMA in Luoyang, the PL-15 initiated flight testing around the year 2011. This advanced weapon achieved initial operational capability between 2015 and 2017 across multiple modern fighter platforms. Pentagon intelligence assessments quickly recognized that this deployment represented a direct threat to historical Western theater access, as the arrival of the PL-15 challenged the long-standing assumption of an uncontested U.S. first shot advantage in the Western Pacific. The primary technological differentiator of the PL-15 is its integration of a sophisticated dual-pulse solid rocket motor. This architecture utilizes a physical internal barrier to separate the solid propellant into two independent combustion chambers. The first pulse fires at launch to rapidly accelerate the weapon into the thin atmosphere of high altitudes. Following a managed ballistic glide phase, the onboard computer ignites the second propellant pulse during the final moments of flight. By providing additional energy at long distances, this second ignition ensures the missile enters the terminal no-escape zone with maximum velocity and maneuverability. Beyond its kinetic reach, open-source assessment suggests that the PL-15 introduces a generational leap in terminal target acquisition via a miniature AESA seeker. This architecture allows instantaneous electronic beam steering, yielding superior side lobe suppression, frequency agility, and robust resistance to digital radio frequency memory or DRFM jamming techniques. Conversely, legacy U.S. inventory systems continue to rely on conventional active radar homing architectures. While these AMRAAM seekers are highly refined, they lack the spatial beam agility of modern AESA designs, creating a structural asymmetry in ECCM protection. The emergence of these Chinese technical capabilities has dramatically compressed the effective operational envelope of U.S. fifth-generation fighters. In a beyond visual range exchange, PL-15-equipped aircraft can achieve a weapon release solution well before an AMRAAM can counter, forcing Western pilots to assume early defensive postures that bleed critical speed and altitude. Furthermore, this extensive reach directly endangers high-value airborne assets, or HVAA, such as refueling tankers and airborne early warning platforms. Forcing these critical command and control assets further back severely limits the practical operational radius of stealth fleets. The tactical impact of these dual-pulse developments has expanded through real-world operational employment and international export. The deployment of the PL-15E export variant to international customers has explicitly validated its reach and flexibility in contested regions. Concurrently, China has fielded the even larger PL-17 missile, with an estimated range exceeding 300 kilometers. Designed specifically to target logistical support platforms and HVAAs, the PL-17 reportedly incorporates long-range data link updates and advanced satellite mid-course guidance to suppress coalition kill chains from extreme standoff distances. To close this recognized performance deficit, the Department of Defense initiated the classified AIM-260 Joint Advanced Tactical Missile, or JATM program in 2017. Managed as a highly secretive Special Access Program, or SAP, the weapon targets performance metrics of Mach 5 and a range estimated at more than 200 kilometers. Open source reporting widely identifies Lockheed Martin as the likely prime contractor tasked with breaking the long-standing manufacturing monopoly. The primary engineering objective is to match or exceed the PL-15 range while maintaining full physical compatibility with legacy launcher rails and the tightly constrained internal weapons bays of the F-22 Raptor and F-35 Lightning II. Consequently, developers discarded air-breathing ramjet concepts in favor of highly energetic, miniaturized, solid propellant motor geometries. Despite its critical priority, the JATM program highlights the obsolescence paradox inherent in modern defense acquisition. Major weapon systems frequently face 8 to 12-year development lags, during which the threat profile continuously evolves. Having missed its original 2022 initial operational capability goal, the AIM-260 has yet to enter widespread operational service as of mid-2026. To prevent the missile from being rendered obsolete upon rollout, defense planners continuously introduce requirements creep, demanding advanced modular software blocks and cognitive electronic protection. These constant updates mandate exhaustive testing loops, trapping the weapon in a cycle of over-engineering and delayed deployment. To mitigate the prolonged transition window, the military has adopted a dual-track strategy combining stopgap measures and software upgrades. The Navy has rapidly fielded the AIM-174B, an air-launched adaptation of the SM-6 surface-to-air missile. While this heavy munition restores an immediate long-range strike capability, its extreme size prevents stealth integration and restricts carriage to external Super Hornet hardpoints. Ultimately, restoring a sustainable long-range advantage will likely require a fundamental restructuring of the acquisition lifecycle. Production pipelines must transition towards software-defined, modular weapons that decouple seeker development from airframe manufacturing, enabling rapid iterative capability insertions against evolving peer threats. In practice, this decoupling has begun not with the missile, but with the aircraft carrying it. The U.S. Air Force's Collaborative Combat Aircraft, or CCA program, is the direct implementation of that principle. The logical resolution to the manned fighter's kinematic deficit is not found in engineering a faster missile alone, but in a fundamental redistribution of magazine depth across the contested battle space. The CCA program reframes loyal wingman autonomous platforms not merely as forward sensors, but as expendable, forward-deployed missile trucks. Under this architecture, a manned fifth-generation fighter operating well behind the forward edge of the missile engagement zone can command multiple low-signature unmanned platforms. A single F-35 or Next-Generation Air Dominance or NGAD platform can manage 2 to 4 CCAs, effectively tripling the available first salvo volume without forcing the manned platform to break radar silence or expose its internal bays. Simultaneously, it forces an adversary to allocate premium long-range weapons, such as the PL-15, against attritable targets instead of high-value manned assets. Furthermore, because these unmanned airframes are built around open architecture software systems, new seeker blocks or energetic propulsion inserts can be integrated in rapid 18 to 24-month cycles, completely bypassing the 8 to 12-year certification timelines typical of manned aviation weapons. While software architectures offer agility, missile warfare remains bounded by chemistry and manufacturing capacity. The United States currently suffers from a critical vulnerability. Decades of post-Cold War consolidation have left domestic production of large, tactical, solid rocket motors reliant on a near-monopoly supplier. China, by contrast, maintains multiple state-owned propellant houses operating on continuous high-rate lines. Open-source audits reveal 3 Western bottlenecks: specialized labor shortages, limited automated liner casting capacity, and acute dependence on precursor chemicals. Critical compounds such as hydroxyl-terminated polybutadiene, HTPB, and advanced energetic plasticizers frequently rely on single-source vendors. This asymmetry means that even when the AIM-260 achieves full-rate production, U.S. output remains vulnerable to being overwhelmed by a peer operating on a wartime footing during a sustained war of attrition. Simulated war games of a mid-2020s Western Pacific contingency consistently expose the same friction point. In a standardized first island chain scenario, a high-altitude BVR exchange unfolds predictably. Even accounting for superior stealth and sensor fusion, a Western fifth-generation element is forced defensive at extended range by the PL-15 launch authority. Aircraft must expend speed and altitude to defeat incoming energy. While forward-deployed CCAs can absorb the initial interceptors, the adversary's second layer targets the logistical tail. Guided by long-range airborne early warning data links, ultra-long-range PL-17 bypassed the fighter screen to threaten tankers. Forcing KC-46 to push their orbits 400 kilometers further east restricts combat air patrol station time to under 25 minutes. The result is a mission kill achieved through logistical strangulation rather than direct attrition. Reversing this deficit requires pivoting from legacy procurement to a strategy focused on decoupling, resilience, and diversification. First, mandate modular, open mission system standards. By physically separating the seeker from the propulsion airframe, teams can hot swap software and electronic protection packages without triggering a new multi-year qualification program. Second, Congress must prioritize onshoring of HTPB, high-energy propellants, and liner materials. Breaking single-source SRM bottlenecks is mandatory for any volume-based strategy. Third, alongside premium weapons like the AIM-260, fund a second-tier missile optimized for mass production. Using additive manufacturing for motor geometries, this design will provide the magazine depth needed to offset a peer's numerical advantage.